Here.
Here.
Phil?
Oh, here, yes.
That's a
Sorry,
difficult
Bill.
one. Dan?
Here.
Okay, and I am here, so we're all here. Great. Next item is I'd like to approve the minutes of the July 2nd, 2026 meeting. Do we have any questions or comments on that? I know that Carleen sent out the final yesterday for everyone to see.
Look good to
Good.
me.
Do I have a motion to
Sure.
approve them?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Raise your
Aye.
hand. You in favor, Bill? All right. Okay, so it has
Yes.
been,
Nick, did you second that, Nick, just for the minutes? Okay, thank you.
Oh, I didn't second it, but I voted for it. So.
Yes, okay.
okay. All right, very good. So we have, oops. All right, so that has been approved. Next thing, just a couple of comments I had just to update you on what's going on with the new member situation.
Chris, just really quick, I think you guys also need to vote on the stakeholder meeting minutes.
Oh. Um,
Was that a
Right.
quorum? Was that an official meeting of the committee?
We have voted on subcommittee minutes before. I've never understood that because I didn't know if we needed to take minutes for that stuff, but previously, meetings that Dan has had with both Chris and Alyssa, we have voted on as a group.
only the people who were in the meeting voted on it.
Oh, we did have a write-up afterward, and that may have qualified as an official meeting because Carleen was there, Chris, you were there, I
Oh,
was
yes,
there.
it did, yeah.
Yeah, so that's three anyway.
It was posted.
Right.
So I suppose if you were, those who were in attendance would be able to just, if you had a chance to look, I believe it got sent out.
Yeah,
It did
and-
get sent out, yes. It was just
Okay.
a short little acknowledgement of what happened.
Yeah.
It listed who was there. There's nothing
Yeah.
controversial.
I would certainly vote to approve.
Okay,
And
I'll
I second.
Okay. So then, do we approve? Please raise your hand if you approve. Excellent. It's passed. All right.
Perfect.
Dan, question?
Me? No, I was just voting. So
Oh, all right.
didn't realize I must have hit something there.
No problem. Okay, so the next thing, like I said, I just wanted to update everybody on what's happening with the looking for a new member. So a letter to the editor in the Bridge of July 1st. There's a letter there. It's also listed on the Concord website under the NRC webpage, under the Warners Pond Management Committee webpage, and under the news and notices page. I think that's the very front page when you sign into the Concord website, if you scroll down. But it's not listed under the volunteer page. So I just thought I'd point that out. And the deadline for people to send in their letters of interest is August 21st. Okay, any questions about that?
It did get
Any-
printed in the Bridge as well on the 31st. Sorry if you said that already.
Yeah, that's okay. I did, but that's okay. It doesn't
Okay,
hurt to say
sorry.
it again.
So would that
The vote.
likely happen by the next meeting then?
So if that's August, the deadline is August 21st. That leaves what, a couple
About a
weeks?
week. Yeah, a week to 10 days.
Yeah, I know that the last week of the month I am tied up. So I'm not sure about that, Dan. We'll have to talk to Rose and Jim and see what we can work out.
Well, I think a key question is, has anyone raised their hand yet?
We
I have-
have not, I will say, we asked for them to be sent to the general natural resources email and we haven't received any yet. But I don't know, continue spreading the word, I suppose. And I know a lot of people are busy during the summer, so we'll see, but we'll keep you updated.
I have mentioned it to a couple of folks in town that I know pretty well, and they're both saying they're otherwise occupied, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Too bad. I do know that. I mean, the deadline is August 21st. I mean, I think that if you have a deadline like that, sometimes people wait until the last minute.
Sure.
I know I'm pretty good at that. And also, just a point of interest, I was sitting at my kitchen table this afternoon and I saw 3 otters playing below the dam.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
I thought
good.
it was kind of unusual actually in the summertime. I see them in the wintertime more so, but not as much in the summertime. So,
Wow.
yeah.
How deep is the water there, Chris?
It's probably a couple, 3 feet deep, not terribly deep.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but they were swimming all around, having a heck of a time.
Great.
All righty. I noticed that Delia is here, and I know that I had the RFP listed later on. Does that mean you want to go now, Delia, and so that you don't have to spend the whole time here, or?
I'm happy to do however you want to proceed with it. It's up to you.
Well, I'm happy to move it up if nobody else has a problem with that.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so why don't we do that then? And we'll talk about the RFP status. And I'll turn it over to Rose and Delia. I know that we all received the copy yesterday, and hopefully everybody had a chance to go through it and kind of digest it a little bit. Okay.
Yes. And we were trying to get it out sooner, and it's just been a bit of a time crunch with busy season for permitting going on right now.
Don't
So
worry,
thanks for
plenty of
being
time.
patient. And I'm going to actually kind of turn it to Delia just because she has a bit more experience with RFPs, and we've been talking as the review's been going on, but I think she will be a little more well spoken on the revision. So
Thanks, Rose. And thanks for letting me join the meeting and talk about this RFP. I think you guys have done a really awesome job pulling this together. And I think Rose put in her email yesterday, and I'm sorry because Rose had already commented, and it was me that was the holdup, and I didn't get through the entire RFP. I just have not had enough time to dedicate to this. But I think Rose had indicated in the email that earlier last month, I had sent up an open space and recreation plan RFP, and they said, oh, we just changed our template based on council's input. So I had to reformat the open space RFP. And so we've been putting the Warner's Pond Management Plan into this updated template. So it will look different. And the other thing that I'm struggling with a little bit, we haven't got there yet in terms of, sequentially, but I will point out that the new structure of the RFP does not contain any numerical quantifiers for either associated, like usually we say this criterion is given X, 25% or 30%. And Finances Council has said that because it's comparative criteria, you cannot have any numeric association. And, we had a little back and forth on that. And, the rankings are highly advantageous, not advantageous, and unacceptable. And it has to be kind of reviewed by the evaluation committee without numerical qualifiers. I think it's a little more challenging, but I think it's we'll have to muddle through because this is how we have been advised. We are proceeding, so no more numbers in the comparative criteria.
Yeah,
Really, Delia, that there was already a debate among us about whether we should have new numbers or not. So I don't think that's a big surprise for many of us.
Okay, good. It was a surprise to me. I mean, we've been doing it this way, and when I was consulting prior to working for the town, that was how we did it. In responding to RFPs for municipalities. So, but things change, and
Sure.
Delia, is that something that we the committee would need to go back and change, or do you guys already do that change?
So we will put all of that into, what my goal is to get you a revised RFP that's completely revised. I mean, I think we're through
Okay.
most of the tasks, but we will restructure the comp criteria and then send that back to you and have, another conversation about it. Because we want this to be something, obviously, that works, for the committee as well as the town.
Delia, I
Yeah,
thought
and
you
I
already
think-
did. I thought I already saw it in the draft that you get rid of the numbers, that you would, that on the modification, on the one you just did.
I did, so I'm gonna share my screen, and I am gonna say that I did jump around a little bit, but I tried
That's
to
okay.
be, focusing really on things that we could speak to today, which was mostly the task-based, but we can certainly, I know that you have half an hour allocated to this. So we can.
This is a top priority, Delia, so.
Okay, good. That's good. I think that's great. So we started out with a legal notice, and I'm already seeing a typo here. And I do want to say that I tried to put everything in blue highlight of what I added for DNR text. And I didn't do it in this case because there was a different structure that you had in here, which was to prepare an adaptive management plan, a monitoring plan, and then essentially an implementation plan. And I changed it to just saying an adaptive management plan because I think everything else can roll into it with the exception of the implementation. So that is just, I think the changes that I've made, I think are more structured to make it simpler for a respondent to respond to. And I'm sure, Dan, as a responder to many RFPs, that if you don't understand what the town is at or the client is asking for, you're going to ask questions for clarity, and then we on the town side end up having to issue addenda. So I'm trying to avoid that as best as possible.
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to be clear on is the contract scope actually includes the monitoring.
Yes.
So not just a monitoring plan, but performance of the monitoring.
Yes. So that's correct. That's the intention. And if I haven't captured that well, then we can make sure that that is the case.
Okay.
So the way that I envision this, and I think this is the way that the committee sees it as well, perhaps with one exception, is that there is a consultant is brought on board. They're asked to review all of the existing material. They prepare what you've called a conceptual site model, which basically says this is what we have as an existing condition currently. What we ask them to review or collect as additional data is going to essentially be the baseline. And then based on all of that information, they're going to develop an adaptive management plan that will have a year one and then triggers for how that gets modified for year 2 and year 3. And they will do the monitoring of whatever I think that makes sense for them to monitor what a contractor then comes in and implements.
And then we do the follow-up monitoring.
Correct.
Okay. And it's a little bit of an unusual contract, and then we've sort of said this is a long-term thing, but the contract is only for 1 year, but it might go for longer.
Right. So the reason, I think
Oh, it says it's for 3 years.
it's 3 years. So we have it structured as a 36-month contract, and that is based on procurement. We cannot have contracts, leases, license, agreements can't be longer than 3 years unless you go to town meeting for approval, which obviously we wouldn't do. We would
But it'd have been, I think, I might be, forgetting, but I thought it was written with 1 year originally.
I remember that too.
I thought that it was, and then so I don't think I have, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I have the other one up. So
Delia, while you're looking for that, let me ask you quick, I don't know if it's just quick or not. Don't we prefer 3 years? I mean,
Well-
wasn't that part of the problem? We thought we couldn't get more than a year, but since
No, I mean, no, it's more, I think it comes up in 2 places. One is what is the pricing they're going to do? Because some of these things are unit-based pricing, and they're going to price them differently if they're thinking year 3 versus just 1 year, where they could adjust it going forward. The second was a little bit more, general, but if we were really dissatisfied with them, we wouldn't want to be locked into a 3-year contract. Now, the contract did have other places saying we could cancel it at any time
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
cost, so
Yeah.
you
So
know
we
that
could-
option is still there.
Dan, if you look at the first graph under background, paragraph under background, it's in blue. It says the length of this contract will be 3 years.
Yeah, no, I just felt like, I think originally it said 1 year. That's all I'm saying.
It did,
Oh.
it did. So I was confused, to be honest. I saw that it said 1 year within back at the sort of back end of the RFP, it said with the option to renew for up to 5 years. Is that?
Yeah,
is that-
that's what I had
okay.
there, but on an
Okay.
annual basis, up to 5 years. So
Okay,
at the end of every year, we're gonna say, yeah, we're gonna renew your contract.
right. And
I mean, I'm
we
fine
can-
with 3 years if you think that's cleaner. I mean, that's totally up to you.
I think it's
Yeah.
easier, and I think it gives the contractor a little more, level of comfort
Maybe
that they're
incentive too.
bidding on
right?
something that they're gonna, right?
Yeah,
But absolutely, if the town is dissatisfied with the performance of the contractor, they're out. I mean, there is a process for, and it's a pretty straightforward process for the town to, we would say rectify the problems that we have identified, give you a time frame to do that. And then if they don't, that's, and it's
Okay.
very rare. It's very rare. Especially, I would say, when you're doing things with an RFP, which has that comparative criteria versus an RFQ or an invitation for bid where you are solely based on low bid, right? So we are selecting a consultant who is demonstrating to us through this RFP process that they are going to be what we need to accomplish the goals that have been set forth.
Is this degree of complexity typical for this kind of thing? This is my first go around with any of this, but in some
Do
ways,
you mean
I
in
think,
terms of the scope?
well, just what we're asking of the bidders, and the fact that they could be dismissed without cause, that it's fairly demanding.
I mean, I think it's unusual in the sense that, usually when I've been involved in issuing RFPs or Qs, you're asking a contractor to provide a service. And it can have many components to it, but it's like at the end of the day, you have a plan. And in this case, we're asking for a plan to be developed. And then that plan is going to be, it's going to have metrics that will trigger perhaps a change in the next iteration of the plan. So there's a fluidity to this RFP that is, I think, is somewhat unusual. And then, we have to issue a second either RFP if it's over 50,000, or if we think it's going to be under 50,000, it would be an RFQ for the mitigation measures to be implemented.
Right.
And then the contractor would monitor those. So
just in my experience on being on the other side, I would not have been turned off by the town saying they can cancel it without cause, because otherwise you set yourself up for a penalty if you or a lawsuit if you cancel it and say, well, why'd you cancel it? I mean, we could say we canceled it because the town ran out of money. I don't know. There's lots of reasons you might want to cancel it.
Yeah.
So.
Can I ask a question based on Phil's comment about the complexity, perhaps the complexity, not the question so much about whether we can cancel? Is there, it seems this is unusual. Maybe I'm wrong. Our plan is to ask for a consultant, but a lot of these consultants, as I look them up online, also want to do the work. They want to provide the, let's say it's Dash. They want to provide the suction harvesting. They want to provide the chemical applications. Is that unusual for us to have I mean, I don't know, I may be a little worried that we have it split out. I'm happy we did it. I want to do it, but I'm just curious, is that something to be concerned about? Most of the company I've seen it try to do both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Delia's going to have an answer. I have an answer for that also, but
Good.
I'll let Delia
Right.
speak.
I mean, I would say, in my experience, for something like this where we're looking, you could have both, but there are certainly firms that are environmental firms that do plans they do monitoring, they do construction oversight. They're not in the business of going out and putting a water, chestnut harvester in a water body. They would say that is
Okay.
a separate, that's a service that they, and I think from the standpoint of, we don't want to have the implementer be the same as the person recommending, because they're going to say,
No,
oh, we're
we
going to
don't.
recommend what services we have in-house. And we may
Right.
not, we want somebody who's going to be very objective and say, these are going to be the best ways to accomplish the goals that you have set forth.
Okay,
And,
that made sense.
okay. Dan, do
Yeah,
you want to?
that,
ask
I, that's what I was gonna say also. I don't think I have to go back and read it, but I don't think it excludes them from responding if the town later provides another RFP for the mitigation measure.
Got
I
it.
don't know.
That's
Well,
a
maybe they are
good-
excluded. I don't know, but
It's a good
we got to
question.
think
I mean,
about
I
that.
think that they might be excluded because I know, for example, if we want to get cost estimates for something, we can't really ask a designer who we might then put out to bid to give us a
Yeah.
cost. We would have to go to a contractor who is going to, for example,
Right.
like Sumco does a lot of like boardwalk construction, right? So we wouldn't ask an engineer, like, what's the cost for that boardwalk construction? I mean, it depends on what phase of the project if we were designing it, we wouldn't ask a designer for a cost because then they
Okay.
couldn't bid on it.
Yeah, I think the only challenge, and I think maybe this is what Bill was getting at a little bit, there's nothing unusual about what we're doing, but there's not a long list of contractors out there in our region. So you don't want to exclude too many of them because
Right,
you might not have too many people left to bid it.
Yeah.
right.
But-
I think that's right.
I think maybe we just stay neutral on that at this point.
And, I mean, we can ask finance, how do we make sure that we avoid bidders excluding themselves if they do offer both services of, developing a plan and providing the implementation measures? Are there ways? I don't know if there are, but finance would know the answer to that question, and we can certainly ask that.
Good.
I'm just gonna make it note.
And also just thinking back to when when we had when the town had one respondent on the dredging operation, now that was COVID. Is there a way of trying to make sure we don't end up with one bid?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's not unusual to get less than 5 bids, right? So we just got a bid for, a trail project, which is, probably $100,000 trail, very preliminary design, 1 bid. And what else recently? I'm trying to remember how many came in. There was just recently the MVP. I think they got 3 bids for that. So it's not, how do you make it palatable for a lot of people to apply? I think is the question. I think one way is to ensure that you have a lengthy, I mean, typically it's a 3-week on the street package available to bidders. For the open space plan, I did it for 4 because I want a really robust response. I think that, I don't know, I'm curious if that will help or not.
I'm not understanding what you're saying. It's on the street process, 3-week?
Sorry. So when a bid is issued, it would be available for bidders to respond for a period of time, which is usually 3 weeks.
Okay.
But if you did it for a longer period of time, I think you may get more response, maybe 1 or 2 people who, like with the dredging bid, we were anticipating, because we heard afterwards from somebody, they were 2 days away from the deadline. They had a family emergency, and so they could not complete. They didn't ask for an extension, but they just they had a family emergency, and so they were not
So,
going to.
Delia, if we just get 1 bid and it's sort of a mediocre bid, can we
You
just?
don't have to
reject?
accept it.
We don't have to, okay.
Yeah, and I think the reality there's 2 things that I think is going to happen. First, we're unlikely to specify just one single activity like the dredging contract went out. because we probably are going to have 2 or 3 different types of methods. They're going to be smaller in scale, only in the census adaptive management. So there's some trial and error. And I don't think the committees, by town law, I don't think we're prohibited from reaching out to contractors sort of in advance. Just say, hey, could you come and talk about what you do? And I think if we make that type of effort, you can't talk about the details of an RFP, the
Yeah,
bid
no,
that
you,
goes
yeah,
out.
you need to be
but-
really careful about that. Because if it gets into any components of the RFP, they can't bid on it. And I mean, they will know, like, but you couldn't do that.
Yeah, that
right?
question was asked though when the town came to the committee. I forget who it was, maybe Rose, you
Oh,
remember.
when Ryan,
And I thought that they said that it would be okay for us to have informal conversations with
Yeah, I
bidders,
remember that. I remember that.
potential bidders in advance.
Well, he said it would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, just to make sure certain companies that are aware of this.
And talk about their techniques and capabilities and stuff like that.
Boy,
Yeah,
as much as
okay,
I like
that's-
that,
That sounds dangerous to me.
me too.
Well, it's not like you're giving insider,
But
who you
information to a
excluding?
specific bidder.
Unless you run that through some sort of a fairly strict set of things you're going to disclose, and you disclose it to everybody, I think you're setting yourself up for conflict.
So to clarify, there was another kind of procurement presentation for town employees, and I remember bringing up a similar question, so I found my notes, so I asked about this. So you can solicit bids from certain vendors, so you could invite them to respond to a bid, but you can't answer questions. So they would need to, like Delia said, you need to submit questions as part of the process, and then answers shared with everyone. Once, there's the period of time where anyone that's bidding can ask clarifying questions, and then everyone gets the questions and responses at the same time.
Then by
Sounds like
Rose, how many-
implication, you can't accept any information from them. Right?
Well-
And
So,
all you
think what
can
it's-
do is say, hey, make sure you send a bid in.
No, but let me give you an example, Rose. So let's say it looks like when we're working with our pond management consultant, like diver assisted suction is going to be like a good thing, right? And we want to reach out to a couple of contractors that do that. Can you say, could you come on in if if you're interested, talk about your methods, how you would do it? No, you don't think so?
I would say, I think that's dangerous.
I think,
I'm all for it because I think we would learn a lot even before getting to the step of reviewing.
Right, and
bid.
now we know the capabilities of somebody, and we haven't given other people an opportunity to give us the same pitch.
Sure, we have. We're inviting. Let's say we invite.
Without, you have to tell them, you have to tell the other people who bid exactly what you learned from the first people. Otherwise, it's not fair.
All right. Well,
So I think that, I mean, what I'm hearing is that there's an interest in bringing in contractors to ask about like means and methods, but not having a specific project in mind. To the extent, well, I guess you would if you bring in diver assisted.
I mean, we are the Waters Pond subcommittee, so
Yeah,
it's
okay,
different.
right.
I would feel-
It is tricky, because as Nick says, when a bid goes out or any procurement is issued by the town, it has to be, everybody has to have the same information
Right.
so that there's no appearance that somebody had an inside angle. And if you, so I'm going to ask that question to finance
Yeah, okay.
specifically, like with
I
Rose,
have a
think-
question.
I just,
I'll
I'll just make one
related
point. If there's
question
any
about
risk,
this.
if there's any risk in this area, we should avoid it because you don't want to delay this whole process by getting
Right,
it.
right.
It's throw us back 6
All right,
months.
here, I agree with Nick. Let me say something about this, Nick, and everyone. Can we at least make sure or send a notice out to a number of potential consultants to please consider this? In other words, I don't know how this gets promulgated, but if we could say, okay, we know these 4 or 5 companies are doing this, just send them an email saying, please look at this because we'd like you to consider applying.
Well, absolutely.
Or
So
what-
once the bid so the bid is, and we haven't talked about this yet, but the cost, if it is over $100,000, it gets immediately registered with the state goods and services bulletin. It goes on to another goods and services, I can't think of the name. It goes into the Combis, which is the state like bid list, and all these contractors have people who are looking daily at these lists. There's a legal notice that I don't think anybody pays any attention to. It's posted at the townhouse. And so once that has been put out on the street, once the bid is publicly available, you can send, or you can say to any bidder, that bid is now available on a town's website. Please, if you're interested, you go to the town website and, take it, download it, because by doing that, they are immediately listed within the town's framework. And so if there are any addenda that are issued, they see them, so we're not chasing people down saying, did you get the addenda? So this is how we want people to respond to
Okay.
So
bids.
maybe that's good enough.
I think that's pretty
Right.
good. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so you can certainly, if you have people that you think are going to be like, really good candidates to develop this adaptive management plan, as soon as that bid is publicly available, tell them to, it's on the
Okay.
website, check it out.
Good.
Yeah, I
That's
think
perfect.
for two different categories, Delia, the way you're suggesting it, companies that we think would be good and others that maybe not so good, but at least we want them aware of this so that they can bid if they choose to and they know it's there.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I think you're right, Phil. I mean, the more bids you get, the better off you are. I think it's, you're able to really, hopefully have a couple of really strong choices that you can choose from.
Okay.
Good.
All right, sounds good.
Okay,
What's
so
next?
should I just go back to the document? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm not there are some just little minor things that I changed here that unless anybody has any questions on, I did think that just in terms of some of the information here, it's all accurate information, but for the purposes of the RFP, probably not necessary to say how it was developed. So I took that out. I did have a question about this because there was this note about sediment and nutrient loading coming from sources abutting the pond and along Neshoba Brook between Route 2 and Ice House Pond. And I just wondered, I just have a question about that because when I looked at the watershed management plan, those areas weren't identified as particularly high sediment or nutrient loading.
Yeah, there were so there's two things there. One is, abutting the pond. And then the second one is Route 2 to Ice House Pond. And that
Yep.
did come from ESS. There were a couple of sites where there's a lot of erosion. I think
Yep.
the contractor's property right there is the bulk of it.
The contractor's property, which is that?
Yeah, in Acton, not in Concord.
Okay, so maybe offline, Dan, you can show that to me.
Yeah, I
'cause
can
did-
show you where
okay.
that.
Okay,
The
great.
ones abutting the property was not really talked about in much detail in ESS, but my personal feeling is the farm fields are a consideration for us. So
Okay, and that's fair. There's one spot that I've seen of the farm fields on the other sort of just north of the Neshoba Brook inlet that is maybe problematic. I think most of the site has pretty good buffer, but I do agree there's but maybe you can you have a site visit noted in here and that might be helpful.
yeah, and even I'm thinking specifically about the south field abutting the property, but there's even a direct discharge, a pipe discharge
Yeah, from
to the
Route
pond
2.
from those fields. No, from the fields.
Oh, from the fields.
So any nutrients that are fertilizer nutrients that are going down into that low line area, which is the center part, basically discharge directly to the pond. I mean, I can show you what I'm thinking later, Delia,
Yeah,
if you
that
want,
sounds
but
good.
that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
But it doesn't
no,
make any
that's
difference
helpful.
for this per se
Nope.
here, so,
But, you know, I don't want to take things out that should be in.
yeah.
But I also did notice, you know, that other things were noticed. And I will point out that when ESS prepared that watershed management plan, we're talking about, you know, an enormous watershed, and all they looked at was sources from Acton, right? There's
Yeah.
stuff that's up gradient in the watershed that was not evaluated because that watershed is so large. It was done on a
Yeah.
lens mapping, you know, kind of assessment rather than on the
But we
ground.
there are also a lot of impoundments between most of that watershed and our pond. So
Mhm.
that tend to mitigate a lot of that sediment in particular.
The sediment, yeah, except in really high storm flows, yeah, I think that's right, but not the nutrients that are in the water column. But yeah, so that would be helpful if you and I can talk offline about that.
Yeah.
I just made this just a little more objective about where this DO had been observed. I think there were some bullets here. Everything was bulleted,
Yeah.
and I just kind of put it into, you know,
There was
systemic
actually
terms.
low DO in the pond. You scrolled through there quickly, but within the
Sorry.
pond interior.
Yes.
Oh, at the
At
pond bottom. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. So I just looked at, you know, what do you think of when you think of low DO? What are you like, less than 5? Is that what you're
Oh,
sort of-
yeah. I mean, they did tiered sampling, vertically tiered sampling.
Yeah.
And you can see it dropping down to very low DO.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Below Massachusetts water class B standards, I think.
So talk to me about this one, because I think this is maybe what you were talking about with the farm fields, but it said the way it had been written sounded like everything was kind of denuded around the pond. I thought that was
Yeah, and I think you know, that probably came from me, but so you can write the RFP however you want, but just so you know what the thinking was, is that obviously there's a lot of vegetation around the pond, but there's not many conditions that match Massachusetts guidance for
in
vegetative
terms of
buffers
buffers and
for ponds
okay.
and lakes,
And,
which would be the ideal that we would go for.
and I think some of that had to do with the homeowners who are not keeping up appropriate buffers and you know, along the pond, cutting all the way down, you know, things along that nature that I think we wanted to address.
Yeah,
Even the
and that-
homeowners are aware of that.
Yeah, so-
that could be part
Yeah.
of the point, you know, that there's no,
That's fair.
there needs to be some, well, you know, whether that's part of this or not, but some sort of maybe regulations or some education campaign so that people understand that that's not
Yeah.
Yeah, I
healthy
think
pond.
education certainly.
But it's not just a matter of like, did you mow the lawn or did you let stuff grow? It's specific species that you want
Sure.
to encourage within
Yep.
that buffer zones.
I think people would like to know what type of, you know, they want the invasives gone and they would rather see, you know, put other plants in, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
I
actually
think we-
envision like a flyer that we could do as part of outreach to the homeowner, abutting
Yeah,
homeowners.
definitely. So we did develop a flyer, it's probably like over 10 years ago now, but that was distributed for a period of time. And I'll share that with you guys so you can see it. And if it, you know, needs updating, that'd be a good start. It's already, you know, you already have a base to work from.
And Delia, I don't remember that. Was that something that was mailed or what?
So I think that when we first remember, I honestly don't remember, Phil, how we distributed it. And we produced a large number as part of, maybe even as part of the watershed. No, it was a recommendation from the watershed management plan that we followed up with, you know, a year or two later. So I think it was probably mailed to ponds, abutters. But it's been so long, I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But I'll share that brochure with the group. Chris, do you remember
Sure.
receiving it?
You know, honestly, I don't. I know that I've seen it just because of the task force, but I don't remember actually
Yeah.
seeing.
Getting mailed it. Okay,
Yeah,
Right.
I do have some examples from other states too, so
great.
if we ever get around to it.
Okay. I did have a question on maintain versus improve, and was this a conscious wording, or is it?
I wouldn't say it was conscious, but the issue is the data we have actually does meet, for the most part, water quality, Massachusetts Class A, but it does not, the conditions under which those samples were taken do not meet the requirements for an impoundment. There's very specific flow conditions
Yeah.
where you have to go do that sampling, and they weren't done at that condition. And we don't have a lot of data, but the data we have actually is not that bad relative to a point-by-point comparison of the standards. But I'm,
Yeah,
yeah,
a better
maintain,
word.
improve.
Achieve might be a better word. Achieve.
Yeah, I mean, improvement may not be that. We may have some limitations in how far we can improve it. Things like DO,
Right.
we can definitely improve that. But
So
other
to the
types of,
extent practicable?
yeah,
That's
I
a good
think
one.
so. Or
I
I mean,
think
I'm fine with any way you want to write it, personally.
Any thoughts from?
I think improve is a good word, but to your point, Dahlia, maybe a qualifier.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so you could start with as
Yeah,
far as
makes-
practical, comma,
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'll
You
move this
can play
around.
with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can also change it from A to B, which is totally fine for Warner's Pond in terms of Massachusetts.
Water quality.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Well,
Right. Okay. So we should talk about this one, the budget. So committees generally don't have budgets, and town budgets are super strained right now. But we are very lucky to have a lot of, potential availability of funding from CPA, and they have been very supportive of funding projects for Warner's Pond. And so right now with that restoration money that was awarded, I forget, I have to look back at the actual date, 23 or thereabouts. So there's nearly $200,000 in those CPA funds that are currently available. And I think, I don't know how much, and generally when I'm writing an RFP, I like to kind of guess how much I think the scope is going to cost, so we have a ballpark idea. I wouldn't recommend, sometimes like with the open space plan, I have a finite number of dollars. I have $95,000. I put that number into the open space RFP because I don't want to see all these bids coming in over $100,000. Now that runs the risk, obviously, of everybody bidding at $92,000. Not everybody will do that. I mean, there are people who will actually bid what it's worth.
yeah, can I say one thing?
Please.
So, well, two things. One, I did estimate the budget, but did not send anybody what I thought that would be. But the other point that I wanted to make, that bullet wasn't really about the budget to do the plan for this count. It was to tell the pond management consultant that whatever budget we were to have going forward for implementation of the mitigation, there's going to be a budget of some kind that they're going to have to work through. And even if we just give them some order magnitude estimates based on what we think the town would support in the future.
I mean, you could include that, but I don't know that I would do that until you see what the recommendations are that are being suggested, because some things are going to cost a lot more than
Yeah, I
other
mean,
things.
the idea wasn't to give them a number now. It was just to say, whatever you recommend, budget's going to be a consideration in our evaluation of those recommendations.
That's a clearer statement. That's a good statement.
And that's those CPA funds that are kind of earmarked for us, those kind of sit in limbo waiting for us to use them from year to year. Is that correct?
They are valid for it's either 30 or 36 months. And then you can request an extension of those funds.
So when
Which
did
I
they
would
become
do.
available initially?
I'll check. I'll check. It's, I mean, if it's, yeah, I'll check. You've probably seen that funding chart, and that has the available. But I will get you that information. And we would, the CPC staffer reaches out to me if I have any projects that are, near expiration, and I send a letter and request it. Chris, we did that with, I think you participated in the public
Boat
hearings for the
launch.
boat launch. Yeah, which we extended.
This, I think Delia was part of the conversation too, even though it was a separate item. They were talking about some of the CPC meetings, they were talking about the total amount and what was going to be returned and what was going to be kept. And so that
Right.
was a pretty,
But that was for funds that were expiring. So they weren't referring to this restoration money because it's active, so they don't have any interest in it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so is it fair just to say that it can be sort of
A consideration, mitigation, but specifically, I wasn't talking about the pond manager fees. I was talking about the
got it.
whatever measures we did.
Okay, so I'll maybe just revise that so that I'm more clear on, now I know what you're trying to get there.
And I guess just a sidebar question unrelated to the RFP. Not too long ago, we would have been talking about grant applications for actual pond mitigation, not so much covering the pond manager here. Is that, do you think, Delia, that's like dead in the water these days, or is there?
I didn't quite understand that. Can you say it again, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there was a time going forward with these measures where we probably would have been considering grant applications like 640V water quality management grants, or there are non-point source grants you can get to mitigate some of those other sources of sediment and nutrient. I just didn't know if the committee should be pursuing grants at this point, going in anticipation of needing money in the future, or should we just, you don't think in this current administration world that we're likely to get anything?
I think that's a great question, and I think it always helps, and I've got a list somewhere, but the deadlines change, and so if there's an interest on the committee to kind of get a list of all the grants that are available, and I can provide that list, it's probably in one of the respond documents, with what the current deadlines are, what the funding amounts are, what the requirements are for applying. I think that's a good idea. I will say there's a lot of red tape associated with these state and federal grants. But they can also provide a lot of money. But we have been very successful with the Warner's Pond.
I think we should at least explore it to know about it.
You should, yes. Yep. And I don't know why this is not accepting the change that I just made, but I'm gonna keep going. Maybe, did I not?
You need to go to where you were editing that comment, hit the check.
I did.
So the three little buttons, because you're editing
This one?
comment, not at yes, and then do edit comment, I think. Or
So
just
it's-
put
I'm
it
just
in
gonna-
another comment is in progress, maybe?
Oh, there it goes.
There, I don't know what happened,
got
but I went out of there.
Probably
Okay,
just flagging.
probably something. Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. Sorry. I don't think this is right. I have to check that. And this is just something that CPC always wants us to put in to, they'd like to just promote the knowledge out there that, they're awarding grants for these things.
sure.
So actually, Delia, is that our answer right there, that it was dated from 2024?
I need to check that.
Okay.
I think it's 2023. Do you want, I'll look it up after the meeting, after we get through this. So what is helpful here? I mean, I don't want to like belabor points. So if I'm just moving through this, please just stop me if there's something that we should talk about this. I think this is clear. Right. So this consultant that we're hiring is going to recommend mitigation measures, but until those have been identified, respondents don't know what they are, so they can't assign, they don't know how much money they would put towards a task that hasn't yet been identified.
You mean the monitoring,
I mean the implementation.
Right.
but it's the
Oh,
implementation
I
and the
see. Oh, no,
monitoring
you're
plan.
right. That's fair. That's fair.
It's in the
Okay.
pricing. I just had them carry a unit cost per per
That's,
monitoring
yeah,
event.
I'm gonna delete that comment.
Okay.
Because yes, they would implement. I just saw implement and I was like, I can't do that. But okay, so that will stay. And this, I prepare an annual, okay, so this comment is not correct. But what I did was, and I wanted to ask you guys about this. Maybe I can just leave this. Okay, I think I can delete this as well, because yes, they are gonna do that.
Yeah, that's a very important part of the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Annual fund motion, but yes, okay. Yep, okay.
So
That is,
what is that,
yeah.
in or out? I'm confused.
That is
That's
in.
got to be in. Yeah.
Very
Yep.
good.
That is in. Okay. And then you had this as task 8 in the RFP that we got, and I just moved it up into
Yeah, that's fine.
task 1, just because it's, and this is straight out of the MCI Concord RFP in terms of
Yeah, no
how
problem.
this is, okay. And then rather than putting in an attachment, I thought just linking, I'm gonna provide hyperlinks here so that
Yeah, perfect.
respondents.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a couple here that
We were
ahead,
getting
sorry.
a little lazy there, Delia.
no problem. I missed a couple here that you had. There's 2. There is the bathymetry and
The
there was another
2020
one.
RFP for dredging. And then the Warner's Pond Task Force final report.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they need to see the RFP for dredging. I mean, that might get them
Probably
off on
not.
the wrong tangent.
Kind of, hmm.
I mean, when we think about this too, this is money that we're spending, so we do want to make sure that,
I think it gives them a perspective of everything. I mean, that and the dam removal, the drawdown, all of that stuff that we have. I mean, I know you said what else? Review the Warner's
Right.
Pond Task Force website.
Well, there was I don't have these directly in front of me, but there were very recent data reports associated. I think they were performed. Well, obviously we have the updated bathymetry, right? Using using acoustic soundings.
Yeah.
That's
But
what you did.
we
They're
also
really good.
had
That company was great.
Yeah.
we had an EA report that had, I think that the purpose of the report was related to the dam removal and downstream sedimentation, but the value of it
Yes.
was it had very good data on the
Yes.
in-pond sediment, in particular things like percent organics, and so that
That is
laboratory
this one, the preliminary. This is
is pretty
BODR.
critical.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it right there?
So
Yeah, okay,
that's
all right.
the basis of design. But so what would be helpful is if you guys all have this, if there are other
Yeah.
things that you see that are missing. And I would agree. I think having the RFP is probably not as necessary if you have this contract and the dredging feasibility, which really identified. I don't think the RFP was as important as the
Yeah, no,
sort of
fair
final.
enough. Yeah.
Okay. And then this is just standard that if you think we need anything else, let us know.
No, but just heads up, I was gonna meet with you completely separately about the drawdown letter. I just had some questions about it, so.
Sure, no problem. So I think this, I thought, well, we can talk about this. So I thought there was additional data that needed to be collected, and I wondered, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking the consultant to tell us. There's a QAP that's being prepared, which is basically something that ensures you're doing something
Yeah.
that can be repeated, and it has a methodology that's, you know, accepted by the state. So it is 2012. I mean, that is a, you know, 14-year-old QAP. I looked at it, I thought it looked fine, but I don't know because I'm not a lake manager. So I
I
thought
would-
they should be the,
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry?
go on. I'm sorry. I don't want to keep interrupting you.
no, that's fine. I don't want to keep talking. I just don't know. I asked the consultants, if they could let us know whether there was any changes that needed to be made to the QAP, just so that we're making sure it's up to standard.
Sounds fair.
Okay. And then similarly, like I know we don't have a lot of this, you know, this veg mapping, species coverage by, we don't have that. We haven't collected that in quite some time. We have collected, you know, DO, sediment sampling. We've collected a lot of, you know, information. But I thought it was also, we should ask the consultant whether there's anything else we should be asking for, and they'll put it into their response so that we can effectively develop the plan.
So
But then these become, go ahead.
So Delia, this edition is assuring that there is a census essentially of vegetation and wildlife and like an up-to-date census of those factors on and near the
So
pond.
this is just veg species. This would be limited to really understanding what the coverage is of the pond sort of mid-season when it's really, really dense,
Mhm.
and then later in the season as it goes into you know, decline, and it starts, the water column is clearing up, but then all those, you know, biomass is dropping into the sediment.
And before, I think we were relying on 2012, but this is making sure that all of this is up to date as of more recently.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
exclusively 2012, because there was other types of testing done over time, and other reports, I should say, not other types, but yeah, I mean,
but not for
predominantly
veg.
Dan, I'm just clarifying that this brings this up to date to a more current value. Is that right, Delia? That's a great add. Thank you.
Yeah. And if they think that additional water quality, but as Dan says, I mean, the water quality sediment sampling, those have been more recently collected. Fish and wildlife, I mean, you know, I doubt the fish, I don't know, but I doubt the fish component has changed dramatically. Wildlife observations, I will say, you know, when you're looking to collect wildlife, you know, observations, you are getting a snapshot of a day that a consultant goes out, what they see, what they hear, what they miss, we don't know. And if they're, you know, do we have them go out 4 times a year to, you know, look at birds, or is it amphibians? Is it mammals? And everything, you know, is it invertebrates? You know, everything has an additional cost. So
Yeah, it's also,
whether or not,
We had our own random sampling this yesterday from Chris.
exactly, right.
well, it's a big cost item, and it's
It is a
usually
big
a
cost item.
separate task. So I think we should decide if we want it in or out. But along those lines, Delia, I do have a question. If you think there's any likelihood from a regulatory basis, we're going to have to do a wildlife habitat evaluation just because of Massachusetts wetlands regulations.
I mean, so that would be a trigger, you know, if you had like 50 feet of bank alteration, you should do a wildlife habitat impact, a wildlife habitat evaluation. Those are specific, I mean, that's,
I don't think you had to do them for the dredging or the dam
we
removal.
didn't,
So
we didn't. I mean, I think that was, you know, there is a land underwater threshold, and I think, and I'd have to look at the regs, but I think that that is a discretionary So it's not a wildlife evaluation, it is a habitat evaluation. It's going out and saying,
What,
you have, you know, X number of snags, they
Right.
provide habitat for, you know, these number of species. You have this amount of dead wood that provides habitat, you know, so it's useful, but it's not, you're not getting a wildlife analysis. So I'm not sure what.
So what's our benefit of that?
so one thing is if drawdown is being considered, then the adverse impact on shellfish could be significant. And the question would be, do we have recent enough data to be comfortable that we know what the population is, what the starting point is?
That's a fair point, and I would say that, you know, likely if there was drawdown proposed, you know, that was greater than 3 feet, because of the, you know, anticipated impacts to fish, shellfish, aquatic invertebrates, overwintering reptiles, amphibians, you know, the commission would probably require some sort of analysis, because it's understood that there's, you know, greater than 3 feet can be pretty significant to
Yeah,
a lot
but
of
so
different
much
fields.
of that pond is shallower than 3 feet. I mean, even that might be a question. Right? If you look at the depth profiles of the pond, there aren't very many deep places. I don't know exactly how much of it is less than 3 feet, but it's a significant amount just looking at a map.
We did have, I mean, there's a map in one of the reports that shows what a 3-foot drawdown would look like. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Does anyone recall that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So question on, let's say a drawdown is one of the preferred solutions. And it's gonna, by doing a drawdown, we know we're gonna lose X% of shellfish and other living species. Does that end up, so that's just a result of doing that? Is that a choice we would have to proceed knowing that there's going to be a cost, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that is that, you know, it would become a regulatory question that would go in front of the commission, and they would have to weigh whether they felt that the benefits offset any costs. And then, you know, DEP would have to agree with that because they have the ability to appeal any permit that any commission issues.
So that would kind of be up to us to make that case to them.
I mean,
Well,
yeah, I mean, I would
I
put
mean-
that on the consultants to say that they would need to demonstrate that there's a compelling, you know, ability to have a productive results
Right.
from drawdown that would not compromise.
And to have that discussion, you would need to know what the estimated shellfish are in less than 3-foot depth, right? And I don't think, do we have that data? I don't think we do.
Bill, you're muted. I think you're trying to talk.
I'm not muted.
You're not, Bill's not
No,
muted.
Bill.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I feel like he's trying to talk and
I
he
don't
can't
see
get
him on my-
unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
Nick
You're
makes
still
the
muted, Bill.
point, though.
There
Okay.
you are.
Here's a question. Why are we discussing this in a certain sense now? These are true. These are important things that may come up, but when we get a consultant and we have some suggestions for remediation, then we would in fact discuss these issues. It seems to me.
That's true.
I think the issue,
Because
Bill,
in the RFP, we're discussing whether or not the things like the populations of wildlife are relevant or need to be enhanced before anything else is done.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
in the original RFP, there was the clear intent that whatever mitigation measures get reviewed and ultimately move forward on, they have to include an assessment of their benefit to wildlife and ecology and habitat. But by including this kind of language here, we're significantly changing the cost of this proposal. And we would also have to be pretty clear on what we're looking for. Like, are we looking for what was done in 2004? Because that would typically, and that's a big item by itself. They would probably have to go out and hire another consultant to do that.
But here we're asking the consultant to let us know if it's necessary. for
We're not-
Fish and Wildlife
Yeah, I guess that's fine,
observations.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right?
We don't
If
have
you
to
look at
accept it.
that. Yeah, so,
And I'm actually, I want to confirm that with, you know, because, let me see where it is.
So if they just say yes, then that would be a different bid.
But what if they
Separate.
say no? Like, what if it would take so much? What if it impacts their proposal in terms of the cost and therefore they don't see it as cost effective, but we do see it as valuable?
But it's not a task. It's not a scope item right now.
No, but if we, Rose, I'm just asking you, like, if we ask them to say whether this is necessary, are they the best judge of that, considering it's a costly line item?
But they wouldn't necessarily get a change order. It could go to a whole new
Yeah.
RFP to somebody.
Yeah, I see. Because because aren't those shellfish that Nick's talking about, aren't there some certain species of shellfish there that are actually endangered?
No.
No,
No,
there's
I think
nothing
the
there.
only-
There's no
Okay.
there's no rare species at
Okay.
Warner's.
It's,
Up Gradient,
just-
there's the wood turtle, but not
Yeah, it's
in
just
the-
the wood turtle is on the rare and endangered list, I think.
you could
So the-
also,
the-
oh, I'm sorry.
Go
Okay.
for it.
I was just
Go
gonna
for it.
say, if we wanted, or I guess if you, I'll say we wanted to integrate Fish and Wildlife, but maybe the budget's not there to integrate it. You could also, that could be like an opportunity to say, hey, users of the pond, report your observations to us and kind of get an idea of what's out there, or use existing things like eBird and
Yeah,
obviously that's not going to get down to
Thanks.
fish, but
no, there's a fishing equivalent to eBird too.
is
is
there?
It has a lot on Warner's Pond, actually. It shows up quite
Oh.
often.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
So
Rain, I
just
think it
just
is.
saying, there's some other public sources
Yep.
that you could at least get some idea of what's there, and or obviously there's a lot of birders in Concord and other people interested in the ponds. I mean, you could have like either someone on the committee looking at public databases, or working with volunteers that hey, show us your photos or your observations, and just kind of get a local idea of what's there. Just
I'm
an
sure we
idea.
could do that.
I mean, my personal input is that we probably do not need to go out and repeat what was done in 2004, and then it was updated a few years later, because I don't think a study of that level, I don't think things have substantially changed. However, I do think we have to be very clear that the mitigation measures we're going to use are going to have an ecological benefit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
we say we want to leave 30% coverage because it gives shade to fish, those types of things have to be built into the decision process. So we want someone who's going to be qualified to make those kind of, talk about that at that level.
Well said, Dan. Is
Yeah.
that built into this RFP, Delia, or is
It-
that something that needs?
It'll be built into the adaptive management plan.
Okay, great.
And I think that you said that very well, Dan. I think that's exactly right.
Good.
All right. So okay. What is it called? The fish thing?
Well, you're not going to be surprised. I have a presentation on it, so I'll go dig it up and send it out.
Dan, that's great.
Wealth of information.
We're not surprised, Dan.
Okay, so let's see. So Public Works, we've asked them, and they have not maintained that for the purposes of the drawdown, just because they have no plans to do it. And I would suggest, if the consultant comes back and says you should draw the pond down in order to effectuate, your adaptive management plan, that's when you would go to Public Works and say, we would like to request, and staff would generally work with other staff to accomplish that, right? So it would be, if that's a recommendation, we would ask them, can you fit this into your work plan? Everybody is really, really tight on resources and, full with lots and lots and lots of projects. But that's how that would generally be approached.
Yeah, and I think
That makes
Rose
sense.
did an initial outreach to CPW. But the issue is they said they have not operated the gate valve, which means at this point in time, we probably don't even want to touch it because it could create a whole problem if it breaks.
Yeah.
But the other issue is the gates, the logs there, the flashboards.
Logs,
I'm
yeah.
sure they work, but that system came with hardware, all the hoisting hardware, and I'm hoping that's in a building somewhere.
I will ask, or somebody, Rose or I will ask that question, but, you know, keep in mind that everybody in the engineering department, has been there for less than 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know if they have storerooms or something. I mean,
Yeah, they do.
it's pretty
They do.
easy to know if you see it, you'll know what it is, but or at least
You
at least I
will.
would. Um,
They have to know what they're looking for, Dan.
yeah, and I was more like trying to preempt rather than wait to see if the management consultant says this is a good idea, just to say, is that even feasible at this
I
point?
agree.
Or do we just
So-
take it off?
That's if we ask them now, then that gives them time to fit it into their schedule. Over the next, I don't know,
Year.
month or so, to try to put that into their schedule and see if they can find it. And if so, then we have a better understanding of, can it be done or not?
Good idea.
Well, I'm not sure it's gonna be that straightforward. I mean, say that the hoisting equipment is there. Somebody, and it would be, either a consultant or maybe Public Works, would need to go and evaluate that not the hoisting equipment, but the drawdown mechanisms to see whether or not they are able to be functional as they were designed. I mean, they're
Yeah, the difference is those planks we can see. I mean, I went out
Yeah.
there and looked at it all looks in pretty
Yes.
good shape if you had the hoisting equipment. The gate valve's a whole different thing. I mean,
exactly.
if we tried to turn the gate valve at this point, it broke, the town would be on the
That-
line for a major repair.
Right, right. So that would be, I would expect that Public Works would contract, or, they wouldn't do it because it's like if that's something where we're asking them to do, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to think about that, but
I would think
we
they
can
just,
start with finding out if at least the hoisting equipment is there. But as far as, so what is the ask here in terms of what are you trying to?
We were basically just trying to be able to tell the pond management consultant that drawdown is an option, or it's not going to be, take it off the list right from the get-go.
So why not have them evaluate that?
I agree with that. I agree with that. Let's find out whether they think it's effective, and then we can go
Right.
from there.
And they, I mean, let's see if we can include something to say that,
Just remember, everything that they evaluate, you're
I
paying
know.
for. So
I know.
That's
So
all we
we'll-
were trying to get at, Delia, was to try to arm them with enough current information as we possibly could. And so we were just looking for like a baseline understanding of the conditions of this potential so that they didn't have to do it and charge us for it.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying that, Public Works, who have been chronically understaffed, they can't hire an engineer, or they have hired one, but they're still down one, and that's been months. That's, when we're understaffed for any department, it means like we get set back for a long time because stuff just keeps coming in and there's nobody, we don't have any bench to fill it. So they are not going to have time to do this like in the near future, but we can certainly find out about the hoisting equipment. We can talk to them about what the feasibility is of evaluating and what they might suggest as a good approach for that, and whether that's something that they could I don't know how long that would take to evaluate, but they would have a better sense. So we can,
At least we could find
We-
out,
Yeah.
what's the timeline for that? Can they do it?
But Bill, what I was saying is the consultant's probably going to spend 24 to 40 hours evaluating that alternative. If it's not going to be feasible, let's
Yeah.
just.
Well, and I would say that's right. I mean, I think before we're spending a lot of time asking CPW to do a lot of, possible additional work. Let's find out if the consultant thinks it's a good
I think
idea.
I would say the opposite.
Yeah, I said the opposite, but that's okay.
Did you? Okay.
Only because
so-
I'm trying to be very cost conscious because I have a feeling this is going to come in at a pretty good number here, high number.
So, okay, so can you just explain that to me? Because-
If we didn't, if we were neutral on whether the thing works or not, they're going to spend, like I said, I would guess somewhere between 24 and 40 hours to evaluate that kind of alternative because it's a complicated one. But if we can tell them from the right get-go, no, we just can't do it. So it's just that we're taking that off the table right from the beginning. They're not going to
Dan,
evaluate.
we said this before though, excuse me. But Dan, we said there are other alternatives. For example, not that I'm pushing you to pump, did a pump and pumped water out as well from the pond, right?
Well, at
So
a
in other words,
pretty extraordinary
why
cost.
close? Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, I know that again, Bear Hill did it for 75,000 for buying a pump. What I'm asking is, why close this down now? Find out. It's one of the major potential things.
All right, okay.
Find out whether it's even feasible, and then we can see where we are. They may say it might be feasible because of the depth of the pond. Okay, then we can dismiss it. But let's have it on an environmental reason rather than a mechanical reason.
Perhaps the clearest thing you could say to them at this point is that we're not sure how quickly the town could implement a drawdown.
Yeah, and
Sure.
I mean, I want to add to that the town hired a consultant to do a drawdown evaluation. That consultant assumed that both those drawdown systems operated. That's what they evaluated. And we're telling the consultant, go read that letter. If the systems in fact don't operate, then we should know that.
I just want to quickly point out we're coming up on almost 4:20,
Yeah,
so just to be aware of the time and respect everyone's time. I know everyone's obviously this is a great conversation and we're getting through a lot. So whatever everyone's comfortable with, but I wanted to be aware of where we were at.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I actually reviewed Delia's stuff. I'm comfortable with anything she has in there, so I'm not.
I reviewed it.
I kind of will stop talking at that, just so we can move
Thanks, Dan.
along.
Why don't we finish going through the review and we still need to continue to talk about this, the public works, but let's continue on with the rest of the RFP.
Okay. So I took all of this, I hope, because I didn't do it verbatim, but this is now in the baseline conditions, task 2.
Yep, that
Mhm.
looks good.
Okay, and then, I think this is where I'm not, I didn't really get through all of this. And we talked about this, so I'm going to change this. The implementation. So, okay. I think I'm clearer now on, the pond monitoring plan versus the mitigation measures, how this is drafted. So, I'm going to sort of revisit that.
So Delia, until you've been through the whole thing, then we're gonna need to review everything else that you change or propose changes to. Not right now.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, yes, if you want to, you've provided us with a really good framework. And we could take this and run with it, or if you want to have this come back to the committee, we can do that too.
I think that if we do that, we need to schedule another meeting. And if we do that, it's like the question is, Delia, how much time do you need? Because I know in your RFP release date, you have July 31st.
That's from the open space plan. That's
So
that's just because I just copied this into an existing RFP.
Okay, so So my question is, how much time do you need to go through the rest of it? Then I would like us to,
Yeah.
say it's a week, 2 weeks, I would like us to meet right away, take a look at that. And because so that we can keep this going, so that we stay with our dates within the Gantt chart. So if everybody can make it, I think that's fantastic. If everybody can't, I would say that at least Dan needs to be there. And if people are okay with that, I'm fine. So Delia, how long do you need?
So what about if you guys scheduled a meeting 2 weeks from today?
Delia, did you take it off share screen because
I
you
did.
brought us to the end of what you were able to look at?
Yeah.
Okay, I still have two questions about what was on the screen, but I'm happy to have the conversation about scheduling before we go back to that. I just have 2 points of clarification.
Okay. So 2 weeks from today is the 20th.
Yeah.
I'm doubtful for that.
Well, pick a day that works for you. I'm just throwing a rough
Can we do it
timing
on
out
Zoom?
there.
I think Zoom is an
Zoom
efficient
is
way to do
fine.
this.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm probable for a Zoom in 2 weeks. Could it be just an hour?
I hope so. Yes, Delia, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do.
Do we? Okay, so does anybody know for sure? Can everybody make the 20th? Right? Give me a show of hands. Raise your hand if you can make it. Don't put your hand up if you're unsure. Okay, so Nick, you're unsure or don't think you can make it?
I'm unsure because I'm supposed to leave town the following day and I'm not sure what I have to get done before.
All right, okay. All right. So why don't we schedule it for the 20th? And Nick, if you're okay with that, if you can make it or not
Yep.
make it, are you
That's
okay?
fine.
Okay,
You can still get sent a copy of it, of course.
of course.
Good.
Okay, and so we'll schedule it for 3 o'clock again?
Yeah.
Is that good for everybody?
Yes.
All right, let's do
And-
that. August 20th at 3 o'clock.
And
Zoom.
Delia,
only.
somehow we can bookmark how far we've gotten today so we don't cover any new old ground again in 2 weeks.
Yes. Yep. And if I make any, so what I will probably do, the way I will handle that is to accept all of the new language for what has been already discussed. It'll come out of blue and the strikeout mode. And then if I do make any other further revisions to any of those tasks that we've already talked about, I'll do it again in blue /
Great.
whatever. So it'll be clear what those changes are.
Yeah, because I think this is going to go pretty fast. What's your estimate for once it sort of leaves you and moves to procurement?
That was my next question.
So if we, at the end of the meeting on, August 20th, if there's relatively few revisions that need to be made, it will go to them, that day or the following. And then I would anticipate a 2 to 3 week time with procurement. And so hopefully by
Sounds like just
hopefully
after
by the
Labor Day.
middle of September, second or third week in September. So that's looking at,
So we're kind of,
early to mid-September, you would have that out on the street.
so we're running about a half month, almost 3 weeks behind then for our schedule.
But we'd be even more behind if we didn't have the meeting in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, well, made progress, though.
Delia, can I ask 2 questions? Okay. One is under task XX, development of mitigation treatment goals. You added something, and I just want to ask for clarification on that ad. Your ad is sorry, I'm moving my notes from the meeting. The pond mitigation management measures shall be recommended and designed or maybe you didn't add it, you just adjusted it, in consideration of their benefits to pond ecology, including wildlife and habitat, cost, and overall efficacy. I'm happy with that. I just want to ask you if that means that the pond management company would be through that required to check the effect of any mitigation on wildlife and habitat. Is that what that means?
So this was in what we
Yep,
received.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
So,
That in based on your request, Carleen.
What, Chris? Sorry, I didn't hear
That's
you.
what we put in based on your
Yep.
request.
And I'm just asking, yes, thank you so much, Chris. And Delia, I'm just asking if that's what you think that, like, if you see that as that's the meaning, if that's the appropriate language there.
But just to note that that would require that the monitoring plan include include
Impact
whatever specific species or adverse impacts.
yeah,
And that's a big change to the scope.
Mhm.
yeah. That's what I read that as saying.
Okay,
And we
and
couldn't do that without doing the initial survey then.
So, wait a minute.
I mean, I would expect that you're gonna have, a lot of these firms have people who do have fisheries wildlife backgrounds. And you don't necessarily have to have a survey of, the actual creatures that are out there. Biologists will look at what habitat features that you have and extrapolate that to what is anticipated to occur
okay,
within that range of different habitats, microhabitats, that kind of thing.
okay,
So I don't think it necessarily means that it's that bullet does not necessarily mean to me that that's a huge cost
okay, terrific.
item.
And the other question I have is pursuant to comments made at last night's NRC meeting that I also agree with. I don't see it in here, but maybe it's just built in. The idea that at the end of this process, there's some other objective firm consultant that looks at the progress and does an objective review of the improvements made, the changes made, that the firm itself can't be grading itself on.
So the firm is going to develop the plan. We're going to put it out once they've identified the measures. That will go out for a separate procurement. And then this consultant that is hired under the one that we're discussing now will evaluate the effectiveness of the second contractor.
Okay, and that's built in. Okay.
Yeah.
That couldn't happen if they were one and the same, is the point that we made at the beginning of this meeting, which is
Right.
why they shouldn't be one and the same, to Dan's point at the beginning.
Right.
Okay, great. Got it. It's locked
Why
in.
we agreed to do it this way.
Yep, got it. Great.
That was part of the original recommendation too from the task force.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
So thank you, Delia, for going through that and being willing to meet with us again in 2 weeks. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Of course, no problem. Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Bye-bye, Delia.
Right. Same here. Take care. Okay, so that was a big chunk of our meeting, but an important part of our meeting. One of the next thing on the Gantt chart, I know that it's 4:30. The next thing on and I had only planned this to be for about an hour and a half, but I just want to bring this up. The next item on our Gantt chart is the pond recreational improvements. And we need to identify and define the issues. And do we agree or disagree? What's important? What do we want to do? Is it creating a channel? Is it getting from the boat launch to Scout Island? Is it better and more access to the pond? Is it ADA compatible boat launch? Creating or providing more space for bird watching. I think that we need to start getting on these issues and figuring out what is important to us moving forward recreationally.
So Chris, doesn't this mean going back to the stakeholders who have particular interest here and getting their feedback?
I think that's a part of it, yes. Yeah, I do. And So we just opened the conversation really with the stakeholders. Do we have sufficient information from some of them? I don't, I think maybe there needs to be some follow-up there on that.
I agree.
I think, oh, go ahead, Carleen.
I recommend, sorry, the train's going by. I hope you can hear me. I would recommend perhaps doing a survey that can be sent out targeted to all of the abutters, but also, spread out across news and notices, or and the local groups, to get some really good feedback from people, so that we have some actual data to work with. I'd be happy to start the draft of that survey to be shown on the 20th if you'd like, and then we could wordsmith it together. I could send it to everyone at least 24 hours ahead of time.
Caroline, I kind of like that idea. Is there a reason we couldn't make it just completely sort of open? Anybody who lives.
No, I'm sorry. It of course would be open to anyone, but also we would make a particular effort to make sure to try to send it to all of the abutters, or at least a notice with a QR
Right.
code, so that the abutters know that it's there. But no, it would go out to anyone and everyone.
Because I mean, the abutters are obviously important, but to me, they're sort of the least important part
Yes.
of the outreach. But we would still have to kind of think the thing through a bit in order to create the survey questions, right? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
like,
think Carleen has a great suggestion. Let her run with the
Yeah.
kind of the rough draft of that. I think the stakeholders are the most important group,
I do
and then the butters are in second or third place.
yeah, but we're all stakeholders. You live in the town, you're a stakeholder.
Well, we're talking about the interest groups that we had at our stakeholder meeting.
Well, for example, we have like six, I think six, I always get this number a little bit wrong, but we have 6 conservation land owned access points to the pond. One of which is Shiro, but the others are smaller, but they're there. Like, they're underutilized now.
Yeah.
Would that be of something of value? The pocket
Right.
park, access, some clearing, whatever. That's an example.
Yeah.
But I think you got
How
to
about
frame it a
this?
little bit because people
How
won't even know
about-
that.
How about by a week? How about by I'm leaving for Iceland tomorrow, so a week from today is not going to do
Lucky you.
good. I know. I'm going to see the eclipse, the solar eclipse. What is so how about by the 17th, or no, it doesn't. Yeah, by the 17th, and I'll send you an email to remind you. If you have any draft questions that you would like to see on this survey, please send them to me via email.
Perfect.
I will incorporate
Yeah,
them.
perfect.
I have one question about this effort, which is that the charge says, includes that we're supposed to improve the recreational capacity of the pond. And that's as far as it goes about recreation. So are we now taking on that we're going to figure out the recreational future of the pond?
No,
That's-
we're
that's
going to
a-
ask this. We're going to ask the stakeholders to answer that for us.
Yeah, I think this is just data.
They're not going to, the
context.
stakeholders are not going to provide you with a coherent plan that balances all of the different needs.
We're not. I don't, Dan. I think, or Nick, I think you're being a little too specific off the bat. I think we just want to get some ideas, and I think depending on how the questions are phrased, we can encourage them to be as specific as they want.
I
It's
believe,
just
That's
information.
not the problem. The problem is then turning that into a coherent recreational plan.
I think you can make recommendations, but I don't think you're tasked with necessarily a
Yeah,
plan.
I'm just
Um,
trying to make sure we're not taking on some huge side project that really is not in our charge. The charge seems to assume that somebody else has figured out a recreational plan for the pond, which they haven't. So I just think that's an issue. That's all. I'm done.
I think when I was going through some past files from over the years, I do think there were some surveys done in the past about what is valued most, and maybe even in the open space and recreation plan for the town, which was last done in 2015. But I think it was in there they had recreation did a survey, not necessarily specific to Warner's Pond, but it might be we could use some existing surveys to get ideas. And then I wanted to mention with recreation, I believe since we didn't have someone from the recreation department or commission at the stakeholder meeting, I think that Phil and Carlene, you were interested in connecting with them maybe
Very
again. And
interested. It was not our
um,
they were very disinterested,
That's a
aggressive.
no,
problem. That's a
But
big problem.
we were very interested. Could somebody else take it upon themselves, someone else on the committee, to review what Rose just made reference to and give a synopsis of what any of that survey data from 2025 put together, so that when we meet on the 20th to discuss this, someone can synthesize for what's already been collected?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I don't know exactly where I go to where you were talking about, Rose, but I'm
yeah,
happy to review whatever you got because I've looked at
I'll
a lot of the other plans. So over the
yeah, I
years.
can once I figure out where it is, yeah, I can send, here's where what I was thinking and where they pulled from. So I'll make a note to find that the data that I was thinking of.
Nick,
I
I
mean,
know what you're talking about, I think, in that, no one has done a survey like this we don't have that understanding of what different groups may want, but I think it's all the more important now, particularly with the redevelopment of the MCI land. Is going to be potentially hundreds of new housing units, and we can interject that into these questions and say, okay, based on how we see this future unfolding for us, what's important to these groups.
Well, okay, my concern is that this could conceivably turn into a lot of work for this committee, which is going to be very busy otherwise. It's very different. There's a huge difference between having a bunch of people's inputs on what they think should happen and turning that into a coherent recreational plan for the pond, because then you have to consider all the trade-offs among these uses, the costs of implementing things. It's a big thing. It's not and my concern is that isn't our job. And I don't mind us dabbling in it a little bit, but I don't want this to turn into some time sink for us, because we got plenty of other stuff to do.
yeah, I think I get what you're saying, but I think this is a little bit of an abstract concept, but I think that, we're going to have some technical issues here that we're going to have to face, but those are going to be able to be managed. We'll figure that out. But the real issue to me, in my mind, is going to be the financial issue. It is getting to be the town, the residents of the town to commit to value the resource enough to commit to spending on an annual basis money to maintain it. So this is like a process of outreach, to kind of
I'm okay with
that.
I'm okay with the outreach. The problem is, I think some of the things people want are going to conflict with other things people want, in the sense of the environment of the pond. So for instance, if you want more boat landings, that means less of something else. Okay. Somebody's going to have to say, here's how much of this we do, here's how much of that we give up to do it. That's all. That's
Yeah.
the hard part.
Well, there's a whole
I also think
recreation
that one of
commission.
the most important parts of this is that we need awareness of the pond and you need access to the pond. Right now, effectively, I know there are primitive, boat launch areas, but effectively the only point of entry to Warner's Pond is on Commonwealth Avenue at the boat launch. Okay, people are saying, oh yeah, we have it at Giroux. There is no water access at Giroux. You can make your own way and go there, but if you can't get on the pond, how can you appreciate it? And how can you say you want these different things on the pond if you can't even get there, or if you don't even know how to get there?
I agree with the need. I agree with the need.
And-
I'm just concerned about the distraction for us. That's
Well,
all.
perhaps you make a good point, Nick. So perhaps what we need to do, and maybe this is the Carlene and Phil thing, is that we need to reach out to the recreation department
Yes.
and basically say, hey, look you guys have a CPA request where you are looking into where is the best place to put a boat launch. Please help us do that. We have money for a boat. We have like $260,000 to revamp the boat launch. Who's responsible for that? I mean, Rose, I don't know if that's natural resources, if that's who's
Rose,
responsible for
can
that? Is
you
that-
elevate this to Delia? I mean, I think it's a real serious issue and that the recreation people just aren't doing their job, frankly.
Yes,
So
They
the
need to be-
boat
need to
launch,
be
I
proper.
know would require another RFP, and I think for the moment, we're just trying to get through the adaptive management RFP and get someone on board before attempting to tackle the boat launch RFP. But I can ask for more, response from recreation and what their involvement may be, and if they could please.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's
provide some-
like it goes to putting an RFP out for boat launch, but I think if we could get the powers to be, whether it's recreation, to say, yeah, over the next 5 or some years, it'd be great to have a kayak launch.
Yeah.
At
And I,
Europe.
yes.
And we think it should be about here.
Yeah.
right. I think that's in our best interest in kind of like being in charge of Warner's Pond to say where we think it should be.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of that is, and I know Dean, you're on, is that, who was in charge of Giroux? I don't know who was in charge of Giroux. Who is in charge of Giroux now? Oh, we don't really know. Should it be recreation? I think it's kind of the select board now. I think that recreation should be the people who are in charge of Giroux Park. There's a lot of potential there. And that way we could work with them to figure out how best to have water access, whatever.
I think there's a lot of parallel between Warner's Pond and the town's oversight of White Pond. So however that's being managed, the beachfront property there is completely managed by the recreation people. So there is a state launch at White, which is different from the launch we're talking about here, which is really a town launch site. But nonetheless, these recreational functions should certainly be taken a look at by the rec commission. So that's kind of my take on it. But I'm not speaking for the board. As any liaison, I just have to say that's my take on it. So,
How did that work though, Dean?
If you think it's a distraction for your group, because you do have a big thing out in front of you with this RFP, we could certainly take it up. I could take it up with the other liaison, who's the rec liaison. I don't know who that is off the top of my head. But I will take it up. I think it might be Paul Bohm. And I can take it up with him.
But recreation is
part of the charge.
explicitly listed as part of our charge.
This is a different topic at the select board level, which is that we have so many committees that there are overlapping elements of charges where a committee has things in its charge which are actually somebody else's direct purview. I'll just give you an example, and I had a comment about this just the other night at a select board meeting. We just rewrote a charge for the TAC, for the Transportation Advisory Committee. In the charge for the TAC, there's specific language that they would be taking a look at, things like conservation easements and conservation trails. We literally have committees, one for conservation restriction. We have the conservation restriction committee, and we have a completely separate committee called the Trails Committee. But there it was right in the Transportation Committee charge that they have these oversight things that they're going to take public input regarding conservation trails and conservation easements. So these things happen where we get charges and they have some overlapping responsibilities. But in this case, it feels like it's it's not very nuanced. This is a recreational element. The boat launch function is a recreational element. And for the current basic Commonwealth Avenue boat launch function, I think that should be something that's taken up right now with the rec commission. In terms of positioning,
Dean,
yeah.
Dean, here's just a small comment on that. You're going to get some pushback on the Natural Resources Commission because that boat launch is on conservation land, whereas the Giroux property, which has been talking about a boat launch for years, would be perfect for and clearer for them to move in that direction.
Are
That's
you
my
talking
guess.
about an
I don't
actual
know.
boat launch where
Um,
you could back your trailer down into the water from Giroux? I don't think
No.
that's in
No.
the cards.
No.
That's not really in the
That's
cards.
what was
You're just
originally
looking at more
recommended,
like a
Yeah.
dock.
Yeah.
or
So
a
I'll give you an
dock, or a
example from
dock
my
even.
experience. I'll give you my experience on the NRC. I served 5 years on the NRC. We
Yep.
absolutely created on the NRC conditions whereby the rebuild of the building where Dino's Pizzeria is there on Main, when
Yep.
they rebuilt that building after the fire or whatever, we demanded and there is a created parking space and a kayak launch right there for the Aspet River. And that was something that was done within the purview of the NRC. So these things can happen in all kinds of contexts.
Oh,
and
yeah.
in the NRC context.
And-
So I'm just suggesting that if this is becoming a distraction at the moment for you to move forward with the current RFP, that you need to really get focused on and get going with this management plan, maybe it could be diverted.
Well, I think
I don't think it's
it's,
a distraction.
yeah, I don't either, but I would also
Okay.
qualify it as it may be a hindrance to not have this. We may not be able to go forward with the pond management plan without
Right.
having a basic understanding of some of these recreational uses because they're
Okay.
so tightly connected.
All right.
Can I make a
Dean-
recommendation that Chris, oh, sorry.
Cutting to the chase, I think it would be most helpful if we could learn which town committee or department is in charge of Giroux, and that we work with them since that is going to be the spot, 95% probability for a boat launch.
I'll tell you what, I will get some clarity on that for your next meeting. How about that?
That would be
Oh,
great.
That would
Okay.
be good, but I also would love, and Chris, I don't know how you feel about this, but as chair, perhaps you could get on the agenda of the Recreation Commission, and maybe one of us can go with you, and you can talk about this with the commission as an agenda item, so that it's out in the public and that there's that we're showing that we're looking for some sort of intersection, some sort of collaboration, some sort of
Good idea,
discussion.
Caroline.
And it's not limited to the adjacent land area. It also includes recreational use within the water.
Of course.
Yeah,
Surface
that's
itself.
why
What
you
kind
want
of
the boat
vessels
launch.
to be allowed,
Right.
what kind of goals we have recreationally for, everything from skating to fishing. What kind of conditions do we need to create with the pond management plan that would support those recreational goals? How much coverage do we need to have versus open water, and where would that be? So that all these pieces are really kind of closely tied together. So I acknowledge that, it would be great if we had a nice tight recreation thing already worked out. We just go from there
Right.
and comment on it. But on the other hand, to not have anything is going to be very difficult to do a pond
Right.
management plan.
And this is not an excuse, but just so you're aware, and Delia seems to have dropped off the call. The NRC is putting out to bid an open space and recreation plan update. The one that's currently in place is from 2015, and it really does not have that much to do with Warner's and Giroux. I don't believe. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's currently well out of date and is due for revision. And so Delia is putting that out to bid for a contractor to help the NRC spin up a subcommittee to update the space and recreation plan.
That's what we need. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So it's happening, but I want to say the window on that, Nick, is probably about 2 years, because it's going to take time to get it out, to get a consultant in, get the bid out, get the consultant in, and then do the work to produce the next 10-year plan. So it's a year and a half or so.
Well, now that Giroux is in fact done, certainly there needs to be some town committee or something charged with the oversight of it, right away.
Yep. You've just put it on my to-do list, so that's fine.
Great, thank you, Dean.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
All right, thanks.
All
I'll drop back to my smiling mug here.
right.
So Carlene, it sounds like you're going to accept input from the rest of us via email or something.
Oh,
with-
so we're
with
still
ideas
we're
and
still going ahead
suggestions.
with the idea of a survey. Everyone gives me any recommendations for questions by the 17th, and I have a draft ready for you on the 20th. Sound
Yep.
good, everybody?
Yep.
Sounds okay to me.
And Dan, you will also at that point be able to synthesize quickly what any surveys that have already been done about rec specifically related.
Yeah, and I guess maybe once you get the thing drafted, you and Bill should probably reach out before to the other major stakeholders so they
Yep.
don't get blindsided by a survey
Yeah,
being.
I'm not going to work with Phil on this. I'm just going to take care of
Okay,
it.
but whoever, so they don't
Yeah.
get blindsided and we make anger
Yes, of
somebody
course, those people will all be on the list of who that survey is sent to, without question.
I would probably ask them, I would let them know
I
before a
understand.
survey going.
I understand they're already on an email list, so
Yeah.
there'll be a special
Okay.
request to
All
have
right.
them fill it out.
So I know that Phil was willing to help you out with that, but
Yeah, yep.
okay. All right, so to do before our next Thursday meeting. Okay, we'll get a copy of the RFP from Delia again. Make sure we'll take a look at that, finalize that on the 20th, and we'll take a look at what Carleen brings to the table for some sort of survey. Meanwhile, we will send her any thoughts, information to her. Yes?
Yep. I'll remind everybody.
Good. Any other questions or comments?
Did we want to make sure we're set on the date of the next meeting?
Isn't it?
Which I
Oh,
think-
yes, yes. Okay, thank
That's
you.
immediately before Labor Day, which
Yes, thank
could
you.
be a problem, at least for
Oh,
me.
you mean the next regular meeting?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so actually, our next regular meeting is September 3rd, and that one is scheduled to be a 6:30 meeting. That is the Thursday before Labor Day. So I don't know if people are
Yeah, I might have
whatever. That's a kind of a tough time. I don't
Yes.
think that's really fair. So I have two ideas, but I'm open to more. We could say, yeah, we could have it at 3:00, or we could push it out a week and have it the following Thursday at the 6:30 time period. Any thoughts or feedback on that?
Will the 20th possibly supersede that meeting?
No.
Well, I thought it was Nick. We're not sure if Nick's going to be there. And I thought it was just going to be a quick hit meeting.
Okay.
But I don't know. What do other people think?
What would we have to do if we're finalizing the RFP that day and also looking at the survey?
Do we have enough time for both? I mean, we took an hour today to talk about the RFP. I'm hopeful that it won't take as long next time, but I don't know.
Yeah, my understanding was that additional meeting is just to review final
and just get that.
kind of revisions for the RFP. But I mean,
Well,
We
Dan,
could do
one
either.
question,
could
Dan,
do-
one question you may be aware of. From the cursor going down the side of the RFP that Delia was going through, we looked like we were about halfway there, but I forget how much of the RFP may be footnotes at the end. So do you think we're halfway through or much more than halfway through? Any
There
idea?
weren't many more changes from what she said today.
I got Rose, maybe you can answer that question, but it seemed to me that we were more than halfway through.
Agree.
I think so. I think we were getting towards the end of her what she'd reviewed, and she ended, I think it said at the top task 4, I think. And yes, Phil, there are definitely several pages at the end that are kind of administrative, not really needed to be
Yeah, I mean, the
discussed.
whole, scoring thing.
What's in red?
Right.
Why is something in red, Rose? There's a bunch of stuff in red, and in your key at the top, I didn't see what red meant. Red
it's
as in
probably
RED, red.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's that it needs to be revisited. Let's
You
see.
read what it said. It says staff has reviewed through task 4. So additional revisions need to be made within some sections to be discussed with the Warner's Pond Management Committee. So that's what the red is. So there's a bunch of red on 12 and 13.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
There's
So
a bit
that's
here.
sorry. That's from the open space recreation plan RFP that she mentioned, since that one got into the new template, so it hasn't been updated yet
Okay,
for the Warner's Ponds adaptive management plan.
But you will though, right?
Yes, yes. So that's on the list.
Okay.
So
But
yeah,
if you go through,
I don't think this is
like,
gonna take long.
yeah, a lot of then after that, there's a
Boiler.
lot of, it's all these requirements and it's all
Yeah.
standard language.
Boilerplate.
so based on this kind of this information now, then maybe it's possible in the meeting in 2 weeks that we finish the RFP, do the survey, and then to Carlene's point, maybe that September meeting, what isn't necessary?
That's my thought.
Okay, okay. But then I don't really want to wait a month and a half then for the next meeting, which would be
Okay.
October. So maybe we could have a meeting sometime in mid-September.
September 10, the week after, Chris, is that what you're suggesting to avoid the 3rd and then we go back to normal?
Yeah, I definitely can't do that one.
The
September
10th.
10, you can't do?
No.
Okay.
What about the 17th?
BCBS. Yeah, I could do that one.
Okay. What about everybody else?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
So then just FYI, so that'll be a month after the additional meeting and then we'll have another meeting 2 weeks later in
Yep.
October. Okay.
Okay, so then that September 17 meeting will be at 6:30. Okay, and then we have October 1 back at 3 o'clock. Good?
Yeah.
All right. And hopefully we'll have a better idea too of the rest of the timing after we talk with Delia on the 20th, as far as just when everything's gonna happen. As far as because she had a timeline here. When the proposal, when we'll start interviews and take a look at the who's applied and
Mhm.
we start interviewing, so then we can do some more planning based on that.
Mhm.
So,
So to clarify, August 23 PM on Zoom only, September 17th, 6:30 PM hybrid.
It's 6:30, correct?
Could you say that again, Carlin? I didn't write it down.
Additional meeting, August 23 PM, Zoom only. September 17, 6:30 PM hybrid.
Okay.
Rose, will you
6:30.
put the August 20 on, you're gonna take care of that? Okay.
Yeah, I will update the our webpage and then I'll reserve the first floor conference room, hopefully available
No,
for
that's Zoom
that
only.
evening meeting.
That's Zoom, oh, for the
September
evening one,
For
yeah.
September, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great. Okay,
I will work on that.
excellent.
I just want to just be clear with the Gantt chart. I'm looking at it now.
Mhm.
We had told ourselves that the town procurement process would have started in July and through August, and we'd be reviewing people, and the award would be given out the beginning of October, or at the worst by the end of October. Do we think we still are going to be able to have a? Probably
Delia
not.
said yes. That's the timeline she gave tonight.
So you still think we'll have
Yep.
a consultant by the end of October?
Oh, well, she said it was going to be on, quote unquote, on the streets by mid-September. And then she said you give 2 to 3 weeks to respond. And then all of those responses have to be looked at. I don't know how long that time takes.
Yeah,
That'll be-
I don't think it's going to push it out too far, but my guess is we won't see, by the time people interview and all that, we won't see an award given until sometime at probably the end of November. That's all.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're gonna have some serious interviewing to do.
Yeah,
Well, if there's one respondent, we won't, but hopefully there's more.
one respondent, again, it's
Yeah,
just,
so
I don't think it's
we're
realistic.
already behind the 8 ball.
All right.
And then I think you liked the consultants that are doing Bear Pond, is that right, Bill?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Dan, what you said?
Did you, I think you liked or you thought
I did,
highly
but
of
there-
those
it's a-
consultants?
Yeah, it's a small organization. I don't even know whether they would, I mean, it's just a couple of people who are working there. I
Husband
don't
and
know.
wife team.
Yeah, it doesn't take an army. It just, it's
That's
a little
true.
bit like a marriage here, though. It takes the right people because
Yeah.
we're going to be working with them for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
folks, it's 5 o'clock.
All right, I have one more comment though, Carleen, thank you very much. And the other thing is, so that at one of these next meetings, quickly, we need to go through the Gantt chart and kind of update where we're at because we need to add in the RFP for the actual company to do the work. And I think we need to start figuring out when we can write that. We talked about it last time, but I don't want to lose track of that so that we can get that in the process so that we know when we need to get everything done by again, because otherwise we just keep putting things off. We won't get anything done in time.
Sounds
All
good.
right. So last point is we have some, is there any public comment? I don't see any hands. Okay, so thank you very much. Then we're adjourning the meeting at 5:01. Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.